Welcome to Healing Voices Project, where we share stories of addiction, grief, recovery, and courage. And also from people who work every day in the field of substance abuse who discuss their experiences and advice. I'm Mike Torville, your host. Thank you all for joining us. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Healing Voices Project. Thank you all for joining us. Each week, we share different stories that range from parents, academics, people who share their own stories of addiction. We have counselors on, and the point is to share perspectives so we can learn from them. And sometimes we take a deep dive, and today is such the case with our guest today is Michael Ochotorena, better known as Ocho. And Ocho has a few hats he wears, and I'll go through a few of them, and I'm not going to hit all of them, but he is an actor.
Just a few.
He is an actor, a director, speaker, evangelist, a professional wrestler. But I think most importantly, he's a husband and a father. And with all those things in his life so far, at I won't say your age, but it's somewhere in the mid-40s.
Go ahead.
At 45 years old, Ocho.
44.
44. I'm wondering what you're going to do in your next 44 years, because I think you've filled up a few lifetimes with what you have right now. And with Ocho's story that he's going to share, and I know I mentioned he was an actor. He was in a movie when I first got to know Ocho through a movie called John Light, which in some way reflects your own life, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
And your most recent one that is coming up with is called The Righteous 12, and you've been in a lot of movies since then. But we're going to share Ocho's story. I know we've got a lot to learn from Ocho, and you're a busy guy, so thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. Welcome, Ocho. We could start when you're young, and I know you've talked about your story many times in front of groups, at churches,
Yes, sir.
at prisons, and throughout the country. You're a well-traveled man, and appreciate you sharing your story. So if what do you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive into how things evolve with you.
My name is Michael Ochotorena. Everyone calls me Ocho because no one can pronounce my last name.
But hold on.
You did pretty well, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you something. With a beautiful first name like that, why would you want to be called anything else?
So that's what I'm saying. You know what? We got the best first name ever. I'm an actor with. I've done 150 movies and TV shows. I've been busy. I'm always working back to back movies, projects. I'm also a partner with Gary Lee Vincent with Burning Bulb Publishing, and we make movies. We do like 3 movies a year, plus we do distribution. And man,
I'll plug in here a little bit for myself with Burning Bulb. Which is Burning Bulb Media, which is also, like you mentioned, Burning Bulb Publishing, because Gary Lee Vincent, who is a friend of both of ours, he also published.
He's my best friend.
He is. Well, he's a wonderful guy and a great publisher, and he published my book, both books actually. The latest is Voices from the Fallen, which shares stories of addiction. And Gary did a wonderful job with Burning Bulb Publishing. So just another shout out to Gary and his company. So thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah. So I work a lot with him. I was running the Tucson studio, soon to be Tucson and Texas studio. And then he runs the West Virginia side. So we come together a lot. Whoever would have thought us two from West Virginia and Arizona would be partners in this big ol' production thing.
You guys are the ultimate odd couple, though, would you say?
Well, when we go speak, I always say we're like Cheech and Chong.
Right.
We're totally different. Here I am, tattooed, heavily tattooed, former gang member, and he is an FBI, you know what I mean, West Virginia guy.
Right.
But it just happens that when we met on John Light when he was directing and I was a star, but then we really became friends on a movie called Dispatched. That we both did up in West Virginia, and we ended up finding out we had similar interests, similar music interests, similar. We were just like the same person in different bodies. So,
very different bodies. I mean, Gary's a big guy with this big head of red hair.
Gary's like 9 foot tall.
Very
no,
Irish
sorry,
looking.
Gary.
Yeah.
Gary, I love you. And then here I am, this Mexican gangster guy.
Right.
No, we ended up collaborating really well. And now we do a lot of stuff together. We tour the country together. Other things I'm doing, I'm a pro wrestler now, which is funny because I started later in life. I started last year, so at 43 years old, I was doing my pro wrestling debut, which is old in terms of being a pro wrestler.
Is that the senior league?
I'm fighting 20-year-olds, so it just takes me 2 weeks to recover after a match, where a younger guy might take a day or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do that too. And most importantly, I tell my life story, which I came from very, very bad beginnings, and I was a very horrible person in my past. But I go and I tell people of how my personal way of saving was through God. So I tell people how God has saved my life, how God has changed my life, and I went from a very bad person to who I am today, which is a father, husband, someone who goes and tells people that, you know what, there are second chances in life. There is redemption in life, and you don't have to lead the life you're living, because there's other better things out there. Yeah. And I talk in prisons. I talk for at-risk youth. As a matter of fact, I'll be speaking, I believe the 23rd of this month at a big youth conference.
Yeah.
So I'll be talking there as well. I talk all over at churches all over the country. I talk at anywhere that people will hear. I tell my life story and on how there is redemption, there is second chances, and people can change no matter how dark they used to be, no matter the circumstances. I'm loving life right now. I'm so busy, back to back stuff, but I guess there's rest. There's plenty of sleep when you're dead. That's what I tell everyone.
Yeah.
So,
and there was a time in your life when it's not only when you situation might have seemed hopeless, desperate, on the edge of death, in prison.
Yes, sir.
In prison, and with not only no chance, but I know there was a point, and you and I have talked so much that there was a point when you've told me, look, I didn't want to die, I didn't want to live, I just didn't care. I just existed, and I just went through it, and I had no fear of consequences. And as your life just goes, and at that point, if you could see yourself, back then, and say, here's what I'm going to become in 15 years or so, you would have never in a million years dreamed that you'd be who you are today.
My only goal 15 years ago was making money. Money was what fueled me. Mm-hmm. Money is what drove me. Power and respect is what drove me.
How'd you get that money?
I was dealing drugs. I was dealing drugs. I was an enforcer too. So you owed money, I'd show up at your doorstep, and it wasn't pretty when I showed up at your doorstep because it meant someone was going to get hurt. And if I wasn't going to hurt you, I was going to hurt a family member, someone you loved, because that money was going to be in my hand by the time I left. Very, very evil person. A lot of people will give testimony and say, back when I was doing the things I did, I felt remorse and I felt sympathy and sorry. I can honestly say, I felt no remorse, no sympathy. I had no empathy. I was evil through and through, and I was going to hurt people to get what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the powerful testament that God is great, because I can't even picture myself like that anymore. All that's in my heart is love. I want to give. I want to help. And I'm not that person anymore, and I'm proud of that. And if I could do it, anyone could do it.
Yeah.
I was also a heroin addict for many, many years. I would speedball, which is using, you know what that is. Most people don't. Speedballing is when you're using cocaine and heroin at the same time. And, you know, from our past interviews, I had 2 heart attacks in my early 30s, and then I OD'd.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't even be around today. I shouldn't even be living today. And if I would have continued down that path, I don't think I would be alive today. But God had greater plans for me.
Yeah, you've gone through a lot, and at the edge of death in prison, heroin addict, overdosed, heart attacks. And not only that, but in threatening situations where if your participation in those gangs and everything else, your life was on the edge every day. But before that, you know, when you were younger, and you were growing up in Arizona, Tucson area.
Yeah, I was born in Tucson, Arizona, and I was raised in San Bernardino too.
Yeah,
California.
And when you were growing up, and I think part of the root cause of this is I know when your mom had you and your dad was sort of missing in action. Your dad was in and out of jail.
Yeah.
So he wasn't.
And you know, for a
there.
lot of years, I did blame him.
Mm-hmm.
My anger, everything that I became, I feel it on him not being there.
Yeah.
Him not being in my life as a child, him not participating in my life. But it was all my own decisions. Later in life, I realized that you can't blame anybody but yourself.
No.
Because in the long run, you're the one making the decision. You're the one that could have changed to be different. And I vowed that I would never become like him, because he was not involved in mine and my sister's lives. And then I ended up almost becoming like him when my son was born, because I was out partying, doing drugs, being who I was, and not being involved in his life. So it's a cycle.
Yeah.
It's a cycle, and there comes a time when you have to break it, or else that cycle will continue and continue.
And you had said too, with your mom and your grandmother helped bring you up too, and even your grandmother was widowed at a young age. And so even without that male influence, you were sort of on your own. But I mean, your grandmother and your mom were bringing you up, but you didn't have a male influence. Can you hear me?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were. They were like great. I'm not gonna lie and say I had the best grandmother. I had the best mother. My mom prayed for me every single day. My grandmother too. But as a young male, we do need that male influence. Mm-hmm. I know in today's society, they are now saying where the father is not needed that much, and that's a lie. Because as a young man growing up, you do need that father influence. Yeah. You need that strong male influence in your life, and I didn't have that. And my grandfather wasn't around. Both my grandfathers died before I was born. So I didn't have that male influence. I had to learn on my own, and my anger, because my father wasn't around, I decided to go a different route. And the gang life is what raised me. The gang life is what I thought was a family.
And that gang, that gang gave you something that was missing, a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it did.
Yeah. And you got approval from the gang, and you wanted to sort of earn your place and say, look,
yeah. Well, my dad, my mom told stories. I heard stories from family members of how my dad was this big bad guy who everyone was afraid of, never lost a fight. People feared him. So I felt like if I would become just a little better than him, more feared than him, um, you know what I mean, more respected than him, then maybe I could earn his love. And it just never happened. And I ended up becoming this awful, horrible person in the long run of things.
Yeah. And finding some sense of belonging in a gang, certainly. And you were doing that in Arizona. When you went to California, you said things got even worse.
Oh yeah, because California is a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
A lot worse. I I was selling drugs. I got in trouble when I was like in 7th grade for selling drugs. Um, I I was in and out of juvie, and then I graduated to big time. I didn't care. My whole thing was the more bad things I did, I'd be respected more.
Mm-hmm.
If I went to prison or jail, I'd be respected more. Um, I just I was a skinny guy, but people feared me because I was fearless. I did what most people wouldn't do. And same thing when I went to prison, I was fearless. I had no fear. So that's what I thought love was respect, was people fearing me. And man, I wasted a lot of good years when I could have had real love, you know. And then when I found out about God's love, man, that was the best love story I ever heard. Was of a Father God who would die on the cross for anyone, no matter what they've done in life,
Mm-hmm.
no matter who they were. And that was truly the greatest love story I ever heard in my life.
Well, you had so many things going against you at the time, but you also had something going for you. And you said that you went through school, and school came easy for you. You did well.
Oh
You were
yeah,
in an advanced
you weren't
class.
supposed to say that, man. But yeah, that was always a secret. I was I people look at me the way I am. People it's kind of funny because they're like, oh, he must not have had the best education. He must not be that smart. But I let people believe that because school did come a lot easy to me. I actually was in all advanced placement courses. Here I was, this gangster guy in advanced placement courses. Um, I could miss school, ditch school, and come back and get straight A's.
Mm.
So school was easy to me. Um, I had a lot of blown opportunities because I had scholarships to colleges and stuff, and I chose the life I chose. Um, but yeah, so when I let people think that I'm a little dumber
You
than I
know,
am.
it can give you an advantage if people underestimate you. And I remember
Oh yeah,
George W. Bush put it well. He said it's kind of good to be misunderestimated.
oh yeah,
From
yeah,
him, that made
yeah. I'm
sense.
like, yeah, I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, you just don't know how smart I am. But
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes those smarts got me in a lot of troubles.
Yeah. Well, as you dove into this, and what led you to taking drugs? I mean, you were drinking all along, and
Yeah,
yeah.
with when you're with that's those certain group of people and those groups, drug abuse is encouraged. Drug use is encouraged. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Drinking, of course, and when you feel that high, I don't know if anyone out there knows what it's like. That first high is always the best high. It's the best high you're ever going to get because that's the best you're ever going to feel. And drug abuse is just basically a person trying to find that first high again.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to continue to do more and more and more because once you start drugs, it's not the same as that first one. You know, so the third, fourth time is not as good as that first, second time, and so on and so on. So you're always chasing that first high. Um, and I started off with marijuana, then cocaine, and each one wasn't strong enough. So finally, heroin was my drug of choice, and I'm suffering afterwards because now I do have cirrhosis, stage 2 cirrhosis of the liver. Um, I have been clean for 9 years, almost 9 years now. I say eight, but it's time's going on. So I've been clean now. So hopefully my the liver is resilient. So hopefully the doctors say that it couldn't fix it. It can fix itself. So that's what I'm hoping and believing in God that will happen.
Yeah.
But
Great.
but yeah, once once I was on heroin, that was my drug of choice, and and I would sell drugs, but I'd use a lot of drugs too. So and then when you're a drug dealer, all your friends are gonna come over because they want that free stuff. So
Yeah. Is that what you
I
got
thought
you
I
in
had,
jail? Yeah.
yeah, I thought yeah, drugs got me in jail. Drugs and my temper. So that got me in jail, got me in prison, and it almost ended me. Almost ended me. And once that drugs are so hard, it's such a vice, and it controls your life. It affects your family, not just myself. It affected my family. The people who really loved me and cared for me, I was stealing from them, just to support my habit as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I stole precious stuff from my grandmother that she had for generations back, and I pawned stuff. I did home invasions. Um, I just would do anything for that drug. Drug took over my life.
But your mom and grandmother supported you throughout.
They prayed for me every single day. When people said Ocho's too far gone, Ocho is unredeemable, Ocho, he will never change. They believed that I would, and they're both passed on now. My mom just passed in September of last year. So a few months back, my mom just passed
Yeah, I
with
remember that.
COVID. Yeah, with COVID, she was only 63. But my wife gave me this thing that made me feel really good, and she said, "Your mom got to live to see her prayers answered." Um,
That's true because I was going to say um, your mom passed seeing the man you've become, and that has to be,
yeah,
that,
that's like the greatest. That makes me feel at ease.
yeah.
That makes me feel like wow, because she prayed so many years, and she got to see her son totally change his life, become a family man, become someone out there, a celebrity figure,
Mm-hmm.
someone out there helping others. So her prayers were answered, and the way I say it is, I prayed too for my mom to be healed, and she was healed, but just not in this side, on the other side in heaven. So she's a new person, and she's up there watching over me and my loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
So
And you, in the middle of all this, you talk about your mom and your grandmother, but you had a son
yes,
whose name is Mikey.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's the little mini me. Actually, not mini anymore because he's 16 and he's taller than me now.
Uh-huh. And
So,
you have
but
a good relationship with Mikey now. Um,
yeah,
and I know in the beginning it was a little you. That's when I think at
my
some point you recognized you were not going to be
yeah.
like your
Well,
own father. Yeah.
his mom was never
Yeah.
in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
She basically chose other things over her son, so she was never in the picture. And and so I had full custody from the time he was a baby, and I was just not prepared to be a dad, because of the things I was doing. My mom and my sister primarily was the ones that they raised him when he was little. I was there, but not there. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And but I'm making up for it. I'm making up for it. The past 8 9 years, I really worked hard to restore that relationship. I have 4 step kids too, so altogether I have 5 kids. and they're my life.
Wow.
I would do anything for them. All that I do, busy. Everyone says I need rest. Everyone says that Ocho, you need to stop a little bit. But what I'm doing is creating a legacy for them, so that they can be proud, and they can hopefully one day continue on where I left off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now something changed. I mean, because one, uh, you had a young son. You were still in the throes of heroin,
Yeah.
in and out of jail. What in the world changed? To a couple things. One, you have a relationship with God you didn't have before. Two, you're an
Yeah.
actor now. Now, what could have possibly pivoted your life to become an actor from where you were?
Well, I always say the point of where my life changed was as a drug addict, as a someone living in the criminal life. You get tired of it. It gets old. It becomes like Groundhog Day, where it's the same thing over and over and over again. And you hurt a lot of people, and and I just got tired of it. But it just was several things. It was like a big bang almost. Not only that, but I met my wife, who well became my future wife, and it's funny because her father was a minister, and I was not a church person, and our thing was, if you want to date me, you got to have God in your life. So I ended up going to church, but more importantly, I found God, and I developed a relationship with God. So that was a catalyst for me to change. I didn't want to do drugs anymore. I didn't want to smoke. I didn't want to drink, because to be an I wanted to be that perfect person for her, for the family, and I realized too I needed to be part of my son's life as well. But acting was an accident. I was a former martial artist, former boxer, and they needed a fight choreographer for a small, low budget movie that was happening in Tucson, Arizona. And I went in. I was just supposed to help choreograph a couple fights. They saw the way I looked, and my voice and my personality and everything's different on film. And I kind of draw back to the old me, and so I can be the best villain ever. And
I've seen that.
it, yeah, they saw that how I could act, and I could memorize, because I say, because they don't know I'm so smart. I have a photogenic memory,
Yeah.
and so I can memorize 100-page script in a day or two. So I'm really good at memorizing scripts, and I'm really good at improv. Um, so my career's just jumped from there. I did a couple small things. They upgraded me from the fight choreographer to the villain, and then from there I got calls. I was noticed by Randy Houser, the country music singer.
I don't get how they noticed you.
People just start talking, man. People start talking. They're like, "You need a bad guy. This guy is the best."
Because you
He's
just,
a young.
get lost in the crowd, I would think, right?
I don't know why I'm typecasted, but hey. But no, I got noticed, and bigger and bigger projects, bigger and bigger actors. I became a SAG actor, which is a union actor.
Yeah.
And then it just jumped from there. I started getting. I wasn't just a supporting. All my roles now are leading roles. So I'm either the lead good guy, the lead villain. I go either way. But also I got into faith-based movies, starting with John Light, and it's a funny story, because someone recommended me to Jason.
Jason
And
Campbell from JC
Jason
Films. Yeah.
Jason Campbell from JC Films, and Dave Welty, who was the writer, and they wanted to meet me. They met me. Dave Welty was like, "This has to be John Light." They had already cast another person to be John Light, hence the last name Light. It was never intended to be a Hispanic, and they had already casted someone. But when Welty heard my life story and how it paralleled his movie. He was I don't want no one else but Ocho as John Light,
Mm-hmm.
and it went from there. That movie took off and was #1 on PureFlix for a while, and man, I still get that was done in 2019. I still get people from all over the world writing me and messaging me, saying how it's touched their lives, how it reminded them of a family member, of themselves, a son or daughter, and how that movie's touched them. So that movie's still doing great things, just like your movie,
Mm-hmm.
or your story, Promise.
Promise to
It's
Astrid.
still
Yeah. Yeah.
Promise to Astrid
Yeah.
is still encouraging people, and it's still touching people. And that's the cool thing with movies, is that they're immortalized. They're
Right.
there forever.
Yeah.
And they can help anybody years down the road. And now with Gary Lee Vincent, we're doing whole bunch of faith-based movies too. And we're hoping to do the same thing John Light did for people.
Want to mention a little bit about the new movie, The Righteous 12?
So The Righteous 12, Chuck Williams. It's a Chuck Williams movie. If you guys don't know who Chuck Williams is, he has a faith-based company, Avondale Pictures. He is a good friend of mine. And new movie, Righteous 12. It's a faith-based Western. So who would ever thought a Western would be faith-based? I unfortunately am the villain. Like, again, I do not know the typecasting here, but I am the villain. I play Phoenix Hawk, actually a role that was supposed to be Dean Cain's. And
You bumped him out of the picture, right?
oh, I'm sorry, Dean Cain. I worked with him in a few movies. We're cool and stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dean Cain. I'm just the better villain. But it was supposed to be Dean Cain's role. He had to drop out for a certain reason, and they called me in and make up for 2 hours a day. But and getting all dressed up in Western wear. Westerns are the hardest. I'm not gonna lie, the hardest movies to do, because you have wardrobe, and with me, a lot of makeup, and but you know what? It's the most fun to do, because you feel like that different person. You feel transformed. I had so much fun in that film. We just had a premiere on January 29th, and I believe it's going to be theaters nationwide March 5th, or it could either be 5th or the 16th, around the first 2 weeks of March.
Okay.
It will be released nationwide in theaters.
That's good to know.
So
yeah.
So I'm proud of it.
That's great. And we'll tune into that. And before I forget, because I want to, if anybody wants to find out more about the movie or find out more about you, Ocho, how do they follow you? How do they is it through?
So you can go to Instagram.
Yeah.
I am Ocho 8mm, like M&Ms, but or 8mm. But Ocho 8M is my handle on Instagram, and Michael Ochotorena, Facebook. You can message me. You can book me through there too. I'm always looking. I just got cast in a new movie filming out in Vegas. Once again, I'm the main villain, but it's a pretty. I can't really say much about it, but it's a big movie. It's going to happen with some big stars. And they cast me as the main villain, so I'm excited about that. I'll be filming that shortly.
Mm-hmm.
And God's good.
Well,
God's good. I've changed my life, and nothing but blessings have been happening. I've gotten booked so many. I moved just recently to Texas, and I've just been booked nonstop in the Texas area.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, God is good.
We were trying to get you up to Western Massachusetts, if you remember last summer. We talked about, and then of course we were challenged by all the COVID restrictions.
COVID. Hopefully that happens soon, and we get down there.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Would love to have
Maybe
you up
with
again.
with a different movie, or just me preaching or giving a word. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I definitely need to get up there. I love the East Coast.
Yeah.
I'm up in I'm up in Detroit a lot, and West Virginia, and well, not Tennessee's not East Coast, but Tennessee is
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah.
So with the
Well,
wrestling stuff, I'm out there a lot too. So
well, we'll be talking all along, and certainly we're going to see how we can get you up to Western Mass. And believe me, you want to come up in the spring or summer or fall,
oh
but
yeah,
not,
yeah.
not in January, February,
See,
March. Yeah.
the thing with me is I'm not, and it's funny because I lived in Arizona.
Yeah.
Um, I don't take heat very well. I love the cold, so I'm one of those weird ones that can take the cold and stuff. Like Gary was saying, "Oh, Ocho, it's freezing over here," and I'm like, that's paradise to me. I love the cold. So yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm excited. Thank you for we did our own interview because I'm gonna be part of your book as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so you know my story firsthand. We have some mutual contacts, JC Films and Gary. So you know my story well, and thank you for bringing me on because I just want to be that person that people can look at and say, you know what, he's totally changed his life, and if he could do it, we can do it too.
If people think their stories are hopeless and
Yeah.
unredeemable, you're a perfect example to look at to say, as you said, if he can do it, and there is not just hope of recovery, but hope for a productive life. And I think what you pointed to earlier is it's not just about you; it's about your
No.
family, your
Yep.
kids, and the
Yeah.
legacy of giving someone a better life yourself. So it's
Yeah. In the long run, family is so important.
yeah.
I know what you do on your show is geared to family,
Hmm.
and truthfully, your family's gonna be there when you're down and out. All your friends come and go. Friends are here one day, gone the next. Family is there to stay. Um, I'm so happy because I'm able now to be a good example to my kids.
Yeah.
I'm able to be someone they can look up to. And like I said, I want to create a legacy for them. I want them to carry on after I'm gone and be the mini Ochos. You know what I mean? Doing the same stuff I'm doing. I mean,
Yeah.
they have the potential to do so good as well. And that's what it's about:
Yep.
family and God, and to me, God,
That
family and God.
yeah, and that's made the biggest
Without
difference in
those
your
two,
life.
without
Yeah.
those two,
Yeah.
it's changed me. It's
Yeah.
changed me, and I'm a happy person, and hopefully I spread this happiness and goodness to everyone I talk to.
You are. You're making a difference in many people's lives, and so many that you'll never know, but I know it's happening.
Yeah.
And so that's why
Oh,
we're
I
having you
hear,
here.
I
Yeah.
hear,
Yeah.
I hear stories
Yeah.
of people telling me, well, Ocho, like so many people were. I'll go to church and they'll be like, people were coming to the Lord, or people were telling me how you've affected their lives. I had spoken at a church one year. I went back the next year, and a mother came in and she's like, "I wanted you to meet my son because that day he heard you last year, he gave up drugs and he went into rehab and he's clean now. And it was after hearing your story, and I was a little disappointed at first because it was a church tour with only about 10 people in there, and I was like, at first I was like, it's not a success. Um, it's not a success because not that many people are here. But then when I heard that woman come in and tell about her son giving up drugs, I realized, you know what? If one person is touched by my story and about my testimony, then you know what? It was a success. I don't care about money. I don't care about fame. But one person was touched, then you know what? I did my job.
That's right. And we say that a lot. If we can touch one person. Now, again, we want to have you up Western Mass live and in person in Western Mass.
I wanna do that. Let's make it happen.
And then, but if somebody wanted to hear your testimony and they didn't get to see you live, do you have anything that they could see?
I have a lot of. If you go to YouTube
Yeah.
and type in Michael Ocho, or if you could spell Ochotorena, Ochotorena. But now I've done so much work. If you type in Michael Ocho in Google, I have tons of testimony on
Okay,
there. I have
good.
tons of. I preach, so I'm a minister,
Mm-hmm.
so I have a ton of preachings on there. I have a ton of testimonies on there. If you type in my name on Google or Amazon or Tubi, I have a ton of movies you can watch on there. So there's always ways. If you type in Michael Ocho, I'm all over the internet. Hollywood Ocho is my wrestling thing. A lot of people have told me that I'm kind of because I do the hardcore death matches and stuff. They're like, "Oh, you're a hypocrite because you talk all this good stuff, but then you do that kind of stuff." But they don't realize that we all have secular jobs. It's how you carry yourself on your job. And trust me, people know the person I am. And I have wrestlers now coming to ask about Jesus and asking for prayer. So, if you're a good person, if you got God in your heart, no matter where you work, no matter what you do, people are going to come to you because you're the light.
Oh, that's a great way to wrap that up. Well, thanks, Ocho. And I know we'll be talking a lot, but thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I know we had technical difficulties. We tried doing this a couple times. We had a few technical difficulties. So this has been an interview in the making for a couple months.
Yes.
But, the devil tried to stop it. Something tried to stop it.
We didn't give up.
You know what?
Yeah.
We didn't give up. The message had to be out there that there is second chances. There is redemption. You can get off of drugs. You can change your life around. And family is number one. God is number one.
Thank you, Ocho. And thank you, everyone, for watching us here at Healing Voices Project. We'll be back again next week. Again, thanks for tuning in. And thanks, Ocho. We'll be talking soon. See y'all later.
All right.
All right.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.